Hey everybody, welcome to Badge Banter, where we feature some awesome stories from industry experts as well as some of our great partners about the importance of the badge and how it relates to organizations and how they better recognize and connect people. So I am Lindsay Martin-Nez from Badge Fast, and I'm super excited about today's guest, Jeremy Fromm from Mercury. Jeremy, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you. I love all your episodes, so this is going to be fun.
Well, awesome. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. Jeremy, you have a new title and kind of a new role. And so you're kind of known as the brand evangelist for Mercury Security now, a title that not very many people have in this industry. So what does that role actually entail on a day-to-day basis?
It's a pretty unique title, and we get to have a lot of fun. So there's not a lot of rules that come with it, and the real goal is to be a trusted advisor for the industry and to help educate end users and consultants and integrators and build opportunities for our OEM partners. So it's a mix of everything. I would say it's a combination of business development with marketing mixed in, with some product management maybe mixed in, with leadership capabilities. So you take all of these different subjects or information that you would do in tons of different roles, and you mix them all together and you get an evangelist. So it's fun to be technical, it's fun to be in front of customers, it's fun to solve problems, and that's what I get to do every day.
I like it. And apparently do a lot of talking to cameras like this and a bunch of virtual interviews and stuff like that.
That's right.
Yeah. So Mercury, I feel pretty strongly like most people know who Mercury is if they're probably watching this, but for those that don't, give me a quick high level on what it is that Mercury does.
Sure. So super basic. If you have a badge, and let's say it's a badge that you may have printed and designed and done your workflow. So we take that credential, you present that credential to a reader, and then that reader plugs in or wires to a Mercury controller. So the Mercury controller makes the decision on if the door should open or not. And all of that is connected to an access control platform, and the access control platform partners with Mercury. So we're the controller that sits in the middle between the access control platform and the reader out at the edge. And what's unique about Mercury is we work with a ton of different manufacturers of software, of access control, and that gives end users a lot of choice.
So, I mean, I've always thought of like Mercury as the behind the scenes brand, which I think is kind of how y'all have always gone to market for a long time. And so a lot of people probably use your products and don't even know that they're Mercury because they're in an enclosure somewhere and a different access control platform is powering it. But now that you're like the brand evangelist for this behind the scenes brand, it's your job to stay connected to like end users and integrators and partners and what's going on in the field on a day-to-day basis. So how do you do that? And then like, how does that inform your role as brand ambassador?
Yeah, so that's exactly right. Mercury's been behind the scenes for 25, 30 years, and most people don't know that they have a Mercury system, right? They think they have an access control system and that those controllers are just a part of that access control system, but they're actually Mercury under the hood. So we saw that there was a need for us to be more in the forefront, have more capability of communicating our message, our value, and some of the upgrade capabilities or importance to upgrade directly out to the field, to the end users, so they can make better informed decisions. So yeah, I would say most of my time in front of end users, and it's just listening to their problems. A lot of the times conversation goes down the cybersecurity path because they need full end-to-end encryption, and the controller is a critical part of that. So most of the time is listening to customers, taking their feedback, taking their desires or new features that they may need, take that back to engineering and product, and try to build that and solve problems. So that's the average day, I would say, and
Nice.
And why we're more out in the forefront today.
Awesome. I like that. So one of the things that I think is cool about Mercury's been like a very long time advocate for the concept of like open architecture in access control. And there's countless debates that have been had about open versus closed system and whether open is really a thing, and I mean what open actually means and how we define it. But for those people who are newer to the industry or newer to Mercury, how would you explain the core difference between open and closed systems?
So I get frustrated with the constant debate of what open really means. So hopefully we settle the score right here, right now, today, and we can move on to what's more important over debating over a silly word. But open for Mercury, let's put it in the eyes of the end user. We give end user choice. We work with 35 different access control systems, and all of those access control systems get exactly the same thing from Mercury. They get the same controller, they get the same firmware, they get the same SDK and API, they have all the same capabilities. So taking that back to what the end user sees, they're able to invest in a system with Mercury under the hood. And if things ever change for that customer and they need to pivot or move to a different system, or if they acquire a new building that already has Mercury in it, then they can easily just repoint their hardware to their system or to another system. So usually the hardware component, what goes on the wall, what all the readers wire into, that's usually the most expensive component of an access control system. And if you're not in love with your access control software and you had to rip and replace everything to start over, that's a pretty painful and often a pretty impossible thing for an end user to do. So in the eyes of an end user, they have choice to pick and choose and move and change. And I think that's what's important when it comes to that open message.
I like that. And it was funny when you reacted viscerally to the open versus closed debate that you're constantly involved in. Is that kind of like how I constantly get involved in the physical badge versus mobile credential debate?
Which one's better? Mobile? It's come on, people. Like we can live in a dual world. Like there's benefit for both, and there's some really compelling things for why a physical badge might be better than a mobile badge in a lot of cases.
Oh, don't you worry. We'll talk about badges for sure. But let's stay on open architecture for just a minute. And so if I'm an end user, I mean, you talked about freedom of choice, but if I'm a customer and I'm trying to make a decision on a system, like why does open architecture matter so much to me when I'm thinking about flexibility and future proofing my system, and potentially integration between multiple systems? Why would I feel like I want to choose an open system as opposed to a closed system, which honestly might be potentially simpler, or there might be a perception of like security around that? What do you say to decision makers who are trying to weigh that decision today?
Yeah, I think as an end user, you should probably ask yourself maybe 3 questions. So the first question, I would say, what is that upfront cost? And if you needed to change, what would that cost be to rip and replace everything and change again? And are you locked into whatever vendor you choose, maybe on the closed or proprietary side? You're committed to their innovation plan. So if they're not innovating at the scale that they told you they were going to innovate, if they slow down, or if their pricing structure changes, or if they have a certain number of integrators in your area and there's only one option and you don't love that option, well, you're stuck. So it's eliminating those opportunities to get stuck. So I think that's probably the big thing. Yeah, there's some really great proprietary based systems out there. Like their software is super nice looking. They do some really cool functionality. But what I would say on the access control side alone, most of these access control companies, they all do really similar things at the core level. So what you can do is you can integrate some of those other things. So maybe your core access control platform doesn't have the video analytics bit built in, but you work with a video analytic company that ties in with your access control system, and you're able to get all that functionality that you dreamed of, but you're still protecting yourself with that initial investment on the controller side.
All right, I like it. So you talked a little bit about like Are they not innovating at the rate that you want? I think innovation is important and it's happening faster than ever in the security industry. So as mobile credentials and biometrics and cloud platforms continue to increase, and you see more and more talk about these concepts in our industry, how's Mercury evolving to better support these new technologies at the controller level?
Yeah, one thing that we're doing, and it's in process right now, we have what we call the new Mercury embedded application environment. Really, what that means is we put a container on the controller, and that container allows anybody, so you, Lindsay, could write an application and you could host it on the Mercury controller directly. So that could be any range of things. It could be somebody goes to swipe it into a really like critical location and you want them to use badge and pin, but you want more than that. So you want like a two-factor authentication. So theoretically, you could say, hey, when that person badges and enters their pin, I want them to get a push notification to their phone. And they have to say, yes, it's me trying to badge in at this reader, and the door won't unlock until you do that. So with this embedded application environment, that two-factor authentication system could live on the controller at the edge, could make those decisions locally without needing to go out to the cloud and worrying about network connectivity and so forth. It would be able to make these decisions locally on the controller and allow you to do really unique things. Now, there's a lot of ideas. I have this wacky idea for schools, like on a large campus environment. I think about if there was a tornado that came through a campus, what does that school typically do today? And usually the answer is nothing. We hide inside a classroom from the tornado. And I'm like, well, do you unlock your doors? And they're, we usually don't have time to do that. So doors on the outside may be locked, and people out in the yard might be locked outside in really bad weather. So my thought is, could we write an application that ties in and monitors the National Weather Service? And if there is bad weather coming through the area or risk of large storms, maybe that triggers the access control system automatically without human intervention to unlock a certain subset of doors so people could shelter in place. And I think you can start thinking of really unique things to solve unique problems that we've never thought of before in access control. So it allows us to step outside of the boring swipe a badge and open a door and really take data from other sources, use that data, and make smarter decisions within an organization.
Well, I know our team is excited about it and already has really cool ideas about ways we can better utilize credentials that we're producing in a more secure way. And they're ready to hit the ground running as soon as we're ready to do that together. So I think that will definitely open up a lot of opportunities out there.
Your idea is it's a pretty cool idea, and I think a lot of people will like it.
I think so too. You'll have to stay tuned though. All right, so we have to talk about credentials and we have to talk about mobile credentials because this is Badge Banter and this is what we do. So obviously mobile credentials are a hotly discussed topic. Our friend Phil over at HID, who shares your title kind of, and except on the mobile credential side, is very vocal about his thoughts on it. But today we're with you and you're at Mercury. And so I have to ask, what's your personal opinion on the physical badge, mobile credential debate, and really just more importantly than the debate itself, but like the future of physical badges?
Yeah, for me, I don't see badges going away anytime soon. I see there being a need and a want and a desire for the mobile credentials. I think that wallet credentials have this nice shiny appeal to them. It's simple to use. It's very consistent when you go to every reader. But there's a lot of complexities and a lot of potential added costs to implement something like that a lot of organizations just can't afford. So I think you can get to a point where you're in a really good situation with the credential. I think security of the credential, in my opinion, is pretty important. So pick a credential that can't be cloned, pick one that is cyber secure end to end. I think we can do unique things on a physical credential as well that we're probably not taking advantage of too, like merging physical security with logical security and putting a a FIDO component onto a credential. So you use your badge to get into your office, and then you use your badge to log into your PC. And it's secure end to end. So I don't see the physical credential going away. I think as we converge more with IT type services and teams, we will probably see more of a need for a physical credential. I think mobile is really convenient. It's cool to use. It's nice to use. I always have my phone. If I leave my phone at home, I go get my phone. If I
Sure.
leave the card at home, I don't always get my card. So I think there's pros and cons of each. But I think for a long period of time, we're going to be able to play nicely in the same sandbox.
Yeah, I think I don't know. This could be controversial, but I can make a case that physical credentials will never go away, and that they'll always be utilized in some capacity. It's just to what end, and which verticals will adopt, and which segment of verticals will adopt. Because to a certain extent, like you could make a case that employees might use them, but students would not, in like a K through 12 environment. And what
You don't envision in the healthcare situation, nurses walking around with their phone hanging so they
Right.
can show their ID, like, hey, I'm going to push some morphine. Just trust it's me because I have a phone, right? They'd be like, no.
But could their phone be the thing that they use to open a door? Maybe yes.
Yeah.
But maybe they still have the visual ID element at a badge level. And
I don't
so,
see it ever going away.
correct. Like there's a way that they live together, and I think that badges are here to stay for. But I'm obviously pretty badge focused. You're a badge guys.
I would go out on a limb and I would guess that you're probably not wrong.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. Okay, so you've been in the industry for a while. Like you moved into this role, but you've been in the industry for a while. So as a result of that, like you've had a front row seat to the evolution of access control over the last 15, however many years. What would you say is the biggest change to the industry since you started? And what do you feel like has stayed the same?
Yeah, so biggest change, and I just sort of mentioned it, but I think it's this convergence of physical security and IT, or IT and OT. If you look at access control as being more of an operational technology type solution, I think that we are an IoT device at this point. We are software, and we need to play more like IT professionals, and that comes to cybersecurity. That comes to updating our firmware more often. I remember when I worked for an access control provider and I was in tech support, even I said this. Now, this was 2007. People would say, do I need to update the firmware on the MR52? And I'd be like, nah, don't worry about it. Nobody ever does that. And now current me is like, oh my God, what did you say back then? Like, yes, you should be updating your firmware. Like, this is not a good thing. So I think that convergence of IT and OT, or physical security and IT, is way more of a thing than it has ever been in the past. I think the move towards smarter security, towards analytics, to how we handle data. You have is it Badge Hub? Is that that helps move data to all these different systems? You can save customers so much time and money and bad data by having a centralized source of truth of your data, and a badging system is a great part of that. And being able to push that out to different systems so they can make decisions without fat fingering information in or trying to upload Excel spreadsheets simplifies so much, and it can allow people to focus on what's really important instead of just adding in information. So I think that's a big thing. The analytic piece, I think, is huge. AI, we always hear it. It's obviously a buzzword, but there's some cool things that are happening out there with natural language. You know, I just made a tool on ChatGPT that estimates how many Mercury controllers you need for a specific type of design. So you say, I have 300 doors, and how many Mercury boards do I need? And ask you some questions. I wanted it to be web-based. I don't know how to write HTML. I went to ChatGPT and I had it write this entire application, and it's nicer than, I would say, 95% of the applications I see out there, and it works. And I wrote 0 lines of code. So I think AI and the ability to make smarter decisions faster That's not going away. So I think that's a big change. And then the generational shift. There's a lot of old people in our industry. I
Yeah.
used to be the young person in the industry, and now I'm starting to become the old
I was
person.
just gonna say, like, am I in that category now? Like, when do you make the jump to an old?
It's when all these younger people are now talking to you, and you're like, oh crap, I'm actually old, so this isn't fun.
Yeah.
But we need to do a better job of uh, educating and building those folks up, and I think certain organizations have done a really good job of that with like some of the stuff that SIA does is really nice. But I think those are probably the biggest changes that I see. What I see that hasn't changed, we're slow to move. We're really slow to move. I was at Mercury like 5 years ago, HID and Mercury, and I just came back, and I found one of my old presentations from 5 years ago, and I was able to use most of the material from that presentation today. And I was like, really, not that much has changed in our industry in 5 years? And that kind of blew my mind. So I feel like we need to do a better job of innovating faster. And I think things like AI are going to push us. Things like cybersecurity and being more IT focused are going to push us. And at the end of the day, relationships, that's still the heart of it. Relationships are important. Talking to customers, understanding their problems, that hasn't changed, and that's, I think, will always be probably the most important aspect of the industry.
To be fair, I actually think it might be even more important as technology continues to evolve and change because like people miss the human connection. And the more that stuff is like AI and auto generated, the more people want like validation that like you're the real Jeremy. This is a real conversation. And so I think that you'll see even more of like face to face and in person meetings and the importance of my relationship as we kind of like get more and more technically advanced.
You may scan my badge and do two-factor authentication to validate that it's actually the real Jeremy, but then you get to talk to the real Jeremy after that. So.
I like it. I like it for sure. Well, awesome, real Jeremy. These are great questions. I love chatting with you, and I know we could probably talk for a lot longer, but we have to get to my favorite segment, which is Badge Blitz. So we will wrap every segment of this season with a 60-second rapid-fire question series. You did not get these questions in advance, so you
I have
could not.
no idea what you're going to ask me.
All right, so we got old school timer here. I'm going to set it. Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right, bring your A game, Jeremy.
Here we go. Oh, I'm going to fail. I know it.
Favorite technology outside of access control?
I think today, AI, ChatGPT, I am so blown away by what it can do. I write the coolest songs and everything, so AI.
All right, love it. If you had to explain access control to a 10-year-old, what would you say?
Swipe your badge at a reader and open a door.
I like it. If you didn't work in the security industry, what would you do?
I'd probably be in healthcare, maybe a nurse or a doctor.
All right. If you had to wear one color for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Mercury red.
Mine would be pink. Sorry, Badge Cats. Aisle seat or window seat?
Aisle.
What's your favorite airport?
Tampa. Tampa by far is the best airport.
They have the best social media.
They have the best. Did you find the banana? So they had a social media thing. They said you could find
post. Best social media of any airport by far.
it is the best. And they have the giant flamingo there too.
Yes, they do. Now that you say that, I do remember that from
Yeah.
Tampa. Man, take notes, Jackson Airport. We need a giant flamingo or something, maybe a giant alligator or something.
There you go.
I know. Well, this was super fun. Thank you so much for joining me. I love having like industry experts on the show like you, and it's always just fun to connect. So I really appreciate all of your insight and ideas, and thank you for sharing them with our audience.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity. This was great.
It was a lot of fun for sure. And to everybody else, we hope you'll join us next time as we take you beyond the badge.